Here we are. We are live. And today is Friday, May 1st. Can you even believe it? We have been at this for 5 weeks. So here's what I know. What I know is that there's lots of folks who are with us in spirit. There are lots of folks who are watching this on the replay. Hey, how are you? And there's lots of folks who get here as they can get here. And so one of the things that you've taught me is the most important thing is to get on here and start talking. So here we are. And you can see that my crown is really coming in, and I'm giving a shout out to all those folks in this audience who are hairdressers or folks at nail salons, because man, you have been off of work for 6 weeks and we are all missing you so much. Hi, Eileen. Hi, Chuck. There we are. We're so glad to see you too, sweetheart. And so today is a very exciting one. Today we're going to talk about shifting your listening. And this is a really personal one for me, because this is one that I really have had to work at my whole life. So of course, I've learned a lot from being married to Chuck Beatty, who is an amazing listener. And I've also learned a lot by doing the work that I do. So of course, we've got some simple shifts for you and some unconscious traps. So as we get started, the first thing I want you to think about is, for yourself, even if you're watching this on a replay, what kind of a listener do you think you are? And what does listening do for you in your relationships? One of the things I've found is that because I'm a speaker and I teach speakers, and there's a lot of speakers who feel like it's our ability to say something, it's our ability to share and speak that is our power. Turns out that our power is in our listening. And that's one of the funny things about doing this Facebook without the lights on. Thank you, Chuck. Oh, I look a whole lot better. He's listening. So listening. One of the things I find is that listening is one of those powers. I get to use it as a coach. I get to use it when I work with leaders and teams. But also, it's really important for our relationships and our families. And so I continue to be a student of listening, and hopefully today's session will give you some of the strategies I've learned. Now, the other thing I've learned is that I need to scroll or something, and typically I'm going to just trust that Chuck will hear it, and he will come in when there's more folks here. So we've been at this for about 3 minutes, so let's just jump in with both feet, okay? So one of the things that I put on my post in Facebook, and you can see the picture because I didn't bring the picture with me, is I just recently saw this picture of what happens to your body under stress. And if you think about COVID-19, that's like the biggest stress I think that any of us have had in our lifetimes. There are those of us who have been in war. There are those of us who have been to other places where we've really been under stress and under trauma. Hi, John. How are you? But for most of us in this country, 9/11 was the last time we all just went, oh my God. And that's almost 20 years ago. So there are people alive who never experienced that and have never experienced anything like this. And so we read about it. There's lots of places where this kind of stress happens, but we haven't experienced it before. So we are in it 6 weeks, maybe 2 months, depending on where you live. And one of the things that I saw in this picture, which I've posted so you can see it, is there's something called auditory exclusion. Never heard that word before. And I've been learning about stress and teaching stress for decades. Never heard that before. So apparently all of us, when we're under stress, lose our ability to hear. And that's because the body is focusing on where do we need to go to either fight or fly. We don't want any distractions and we need to get the heck out of Dodge. And so I found that really fascinating because I just found this from my teacher, Dr. Nadia Zeksambayeva, who I love so much, and the reinvention work that I'm doing with her and her community. I wanted to just start the conversation with, it's not our fault. It's biology. It's trying to keep us safe. It's trying to help us move somewhere. And we are in our homes with our spouses and our children and trying to catch up with folks. And our auditory is under assault. So I have 3 simple shifts today that have helped me tremendously in my life, and 3 unconscious traps that we all fall into that I'd really like to share with you. So While I've got a couple people online, I want to be sure that I always ask if there's anything you want to say, anything you want to ask, anytime. Oh, look, I can scroll. I'm learning lots of things to do with Facebook Live. You can see over these five times that I actually am getting trained, because this is new behavior for me. Okay, so the first unconscious trap, and I've got big signs today. The first unconscious trap is lack of self-care. Now, you would think with everything that's on our plate right now, all the changes that we're experiencing, self-care is the last thing we're thinking about. We're letting our hair go, we're letting our nails go, we're not taking those long, luxurious baths that we used to be able to take when the kids are at school because everyone is home. So what I want to tell you is that self-care is one of those things that it can be big or it can be small. And lots of little small things will help you very much with self-care. So the simple shift here is to do something nourishing for yourself every day. I teach this to my clients. I teach it to my students in my classes. And it's one of the things that has actually saved my life on a number of occasions, because I wasn't actually raised to care for myself, as a lot of us weren't. And I had to kind of make it up as I was going along. But I've learned some great things along the way. The easiest, simplest, quickest, least expensive thing you can do for yourself on a regular basis is take a breath. So one of the things I love to do with everybody who will let me to share this with them is a breathing strategy. You breathe in for 4 and out for 8. And so because it will be wonderful just to get our ears primed, I'm going to invite you to try it with me right now. I'll be right there with you, and my eyes are closed so I can't see you. Okay, in for 4. And then out for 8. And I invite people to do that 3 or 4 or 5 times every time you think about it. But frankly, once will actually reset your system so that your body is not in fight or flight, which means it makes your ears work better. The other thing I invite people to do, depending on what your sensory profile is to have things that match your lead channel. So I'm really visual, so you can see behind me, there's lots of things to see in my office. There's lots of things that all I have to do is look up, and it makes me happy. I always have something to hold on to when I'm talking to people or when I'm doing a training, because it makes me happy, and it makes me more resourceful, and it makes my ears work better. So I invite you to do anything that works for you. Taking a walk, dancing, reading a book, watching a movie that you really want to see. Any of those things, they're easy and they're quick. You can do them with your family. You can do them to relax. Hi, Chantel. How are you, my darling? So we're just talking about breathing, and I know you know that one. So self-care is critical this time in the world. Okay, so we got that handling. We're breathing now. And of course, we had to do a little breathing so that we could continue to listen. And you'll notice when you tap into the handouts, there's no blanks to fill in. Everything is filled in for you except for the check marks for the final thing. But because this is about listening, I don't want you to have to try and listen and remember. I'll give you all that auditory right there on the page so you can see it. Okay? So our second unconscious trap is listening in first gear. Now, if you remember, first gear is Planet Me, totally the truth, all right, always true, just for you on your own Planet Me. So a lot of us fall into this unconscious trap. So listening in first gear is not really hearing, because listening in first gear is just sort of like being in first gear and having people bump into your planet. So whatever it is that they're saying, if it matches your planet, you can hear it. If it doesn't match your planet, if it doesn't match your experience, then what you are doing when you are trying to listen in first gear is you are simply judging. You are judging that what they're saying isn't true because it's not true on your planet, where they're wrong, what you can say next to forward your argument for your planet. And this is a natural human occurrence that happens to all of us. It happens in families all the time. It happens at work. It happens in relationships. And a lot of folks don't understand that you simply can't listen in first gear, although we try to all the time. So you've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. So let's talk about what the simple shift is. The simple shift is to listen in second gear, because listening in second gear is a completely different kind of listening. Listening in second gear means I'm going to take a walk in your shoes. It's not about my planet, it's about your shoes. It means I actually really want to know what's going on with you. And so I can do things in second gear that I can't do in first gear when it comes to listening. I can listen to the actual words you're saying. I can hear them. I can grok them. I can see what you're saying. Thanks for you guys who are here. Thanks for you folks who I haven't seen yet, because Chuck is on your side. Hi, Wendy. Hi, Rhonda. Hi, everybody. Now, see, that man is listening in second gear. He's got a big job to do today, and he's helping me with another big job that we are both doing today. But you know what? His ears are always on me, especially when we're doing this program. He's in the next room, and he's with us. So that's the perfect example of listening in second gear. So the pieces, and this is all in your handout. Listen to the actual words that we're speaking. Listen with nonverbal support and acceptance. So it's really hard to listen in second gear when you're in the middle of something. You know how we do sort of like a drive-by fruiting? We say something and we're not really there to catch it. We don't. Hi, Margaret. It's really hard. It's totally human, totally normal, and it's listening in first gear. And here are the things that are really exciting for listening in second gear. And that is when you listen for what is not being said as well as for what is. Now, here's my visual, and I know that there's it's coming out of my head. Listen as if you could contribute to the speaker's ideas, but also listen as if the speaker could contribute to you. Yes, John, listening in second gear is listening to understand and not listening to respond. Absolutely, because listening to respond is listening in first gear. I know what's coming. I know what's next, whether you see the next exciting unconscious trap, because all of this shows up there. So listening in second gear is a strategy, and it's a decision, and it's something that we do to people, we do with people that we really love when we are feeling nourished. That's why, put the face mask on your own nose and mouth before you attempt to take care of the passenger next to you. We can't listen in second gear until we nourish ourselves. We can't be there for somebody else until we take care of us. So we have to do first gear first. First gear is a really important gear. It's the thing that tells us what we need and what we want, and we have to take care of that first so that we have the availability of second gear. Make sense? Okay. So listening in first gear, not going to help you unless you're listening to yourself in first gear, and that's going to help you a lot because that's your planet and everything is always right and always true. And what happens is sometimes we don't listen to ourselves. We don't listen to, don't say yes to that date. Don't pick up that phone. Don't fill in the blank. We don't listen. And then we try and listen to other people in first gear and it doesn't work. So hopefully this distinction helps you with, wow, that's what happened. I had no idea, because we don't. Okay, so it's almost halfway through and I get to spend the most amount of time to the unconscious trap that a lot of people have never heard of, but this is the most important unconscious trap. Here we go. Third unconscious trap. It turns out that COVID-19 is not the only medical emergency. It turns out that being unaware of a BEPPUMOID infestation can be almost as devastating as COVID-19. Now, it's medical because it's got Latin at the bottom of it. Licinus naturalis. And so, for those of you who have your handouts, all the details are here. For those of you that don't have your handouts, we're going to work this through. Now, what the heck is a BEPPUMOID, Maya? Well, okay, full disclosure, it's not really a medical emergency, although it certainly shows up like that on TV. And that is, a BEPPUMOID is a little creature that crawls in your ear and prevents you from hearing anything anybody says. Now, you can't see the creature. Now, this is magnified 1 million times so that we can actually see it. But you see how it's all talking and no listening, and it's got those little claws to scrape in there and get to where you can't reach it. Now, BEPPUMOID, BEPPUMOID, here's what your handout looks like. Got all those words right there. So these are the symptoms. And full disclosure, I made it up. In 1992, I was doing some work with an organization that was having a lot of trouble with people listening to each other and not listening to each other. And so I had to create a strategy because, you know me, there's going to be visual aids, there's going to be metaphors. It's going to be fun or I'm not going to do it. And so the BEPPUMOID is sort of putting all these words together. And I got an OID and I got a B. And so, yeah, so that's how the BEPPUMOID was created. So BEPPUMOIDs happen in first gear. All of these symptoms happen in first gear. So let's run through them. And as I run through them, I'm going to ask you to consider the last time you weren't listening, were you experiencing this symptom, whether with a family member or with a work colleague or, with an extended family member or on a Zoom call, okay? So first one is bored. First gear is like, yeah, you got nothing for me. Please talk to me about golf and I will quickly leave the room. Mentally, if not physically. Emotional. Here's the crazy thing. We do a lot of talking and a lot of trying to listen when we're emotional, and emotional is kind of like the stress response. We have auditory exclusion. When we are emotional, in whatever emotion that is, sad, mad, scared, whatever it is, we can't hear because we have auditory exclusion. We can only see what's right in front of us, and we can't really be fully present because we are trying to get the heck out of Dodge. So any emotion is going to stop you from having a conversation that's useful. When you're physically tired, if your auditory is your dropout channel, it's gone. And I can tell you auditory is my dropout channel. And I have been known to say, I got no auditory, it's dropped out. But a lot of people don't know that. And the reason that the auditory drops out is to keep you aware, to keep you going, to keep you moving forward in a way that you want to until you can stop and rest, which is why the very first thing for listening is self-care. So preoccupied. We have a child who was supposed to graduate this year, and he or she is not going to get to graduate. And we're trying to do this Zoom call, and we're thinking about our child, we're thinking about what they're missing, and we can't hear because we're not there. Uninterested. A little bit like bored, but a little bit different. So, when somebody wants to talk to me right now about the political divide in our country, I'm not interested. It's not that I'm bored. Golf is boring to me, but the emotion, all that stuff, it's like, I can't go there. See the difference? Mentally tired is the same as physically tired, either mentally or physically. I'm working on a graduate degree right now, and I'm working on my thesis proposal. Just saying that makes me kind of go, my brain is fried at the end of every day. Let me tell you, it's exciting, but I am creating some new neural networks, and man, at the end of the day, I can't even speak. It's that exciting. Now, organizing your thoughts. Remember we talked last time about quick. Hi, Kyla. Hi, my sweetheart. So remember last time or the time before that, we talked about quick and careful task and relationship. So the careful folks are organizing their thoughts so that they can respond, because there's that listening in first gear. It's like, I need to get in this conversation. The careful folks are amazing listeners in second gear. It comes naturally to them. And when they're trying to keep up with somebody who's quick, they're trying to, hi, Mary, how are you, my dear? It's really hard. So careful folks are the best listeners on the planet. And sometimes it's hard when they're trying to keep up with something and they're not paying attention. The quick folks are the ones who will interrupt you. They're listening in first gear and you're talking and it's not going fast enough for them, and they just cut you right off. They don't mean to. Their brain is going so fast, they just can't slow down. Once again, all of these are listening in first gear. And then finally, distracted. Sometimes when it's really beautiful outside and you're supposed to be on a Zoom call or you're supposed to be making a report or doing something like that, you are just so distracted by how beautiful it is. You just can't listen to anybody on that call. And so all of these pieces are the symptoms of a BEPPUMOID infestation. So what do you think about a BEPPUMOID? Anybody seen any symptoms in their recent conversations? Anybody want to share anything? And I'll leave that question with you because we've discovered there's a 20-second delay. So what I will start with while I'm waiting for those things or giving you the opportunity for those things is, oh my God, Maya, I have a BEPPUMOID infestation. What the heck can I do about it? Well, fortunately, I would never tell you about an unconscious trap without giving you a simple shift, right? That's the only reason simple shifts exist, is because there's unconscious traps that need to be interrupted. And for those of you that might not remember it, or for those of you that might not have seen it, this is a really good place to tell you that unconscious traps are merely outdated thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors that no longer serve you. Maybe they worked a long time ago. They are not bad things. They are there so that you'll pay attention. Because when you fall into a trap and you're thinking, why did that not work? I had the best intentions, but why did that not work? Well, it's because that trap is there for it to be healed, for it to be distinguished. So the next time something like that happens, you go, wait a minute, I'm not going to go there. I've updated that thought, belief, or behavior. Okay? Simple shifts are merely an update. It's like you're just getting the next OS system. Okay? So we are not, and I'm not, I don't have those technical words in my brain right now. But you know, the really old Apple computers, they're not called. Say it again, Charlie. Upgrading, yeah. Thank you, sir. And he's doing a job. He's doing a major technical job. Anyway, too funny. So you remember those old computers or those old flip phones that, you know, we've upgraded and now we have touch, you know, screens and we've got all these pieces. And so that's all a simple shift is. It's just an upgrade of your system. And that worked before, I need the new one because I have all these things that are happening in my world and I need something more effective. Okay? So when you have discovered that you've got some BEPPUMOID symptoms, which happens to all of us all the time, there's things you can do. The simple shift is simply detect your symptoms. Now you know what they are. So the next time you're in a conversation and you're like, oh, for crying out loud, you're not listening. Or you get angry, or you get scared, or you get upset or sad or whatever. You're not listening. So that emotion, and for those of us who are emotional like I am, and a lot of folks that I work with, when we're emotional, we can't listen. We can't hear a thing. And so that's our hint to stop. We detected our symptoms, and now we can do something about it. So the first thing, if you're the one with the BEPPUMOID symptom or infestation, all you can do is stop in that moment and go, oh my gosh, would you excuse me for a moment? Now, you don't have to say you have a BEPPUMOID infestation. You can say, you know, I think I'm coming down with something right now. I really want to hear you and I just can't. Can we do this another time? And honestly, you'd be surprised at how often this works because people say, oh my God, something's wrong with you? You're like, yeah, and you don't want to say BEPPUMOID infestation unless you want to share BEPPUMOID infestation with your family and friends, which I highly recommend. I'm hoping that this video gets shared a lot because it will help you a lot. So admit it, BEPPUMOID infestation, can't hear you, really want to. Step one, step two. The next thing you got to do is take care of yourself. You know, sometimes just get up and move and, you know, shake it off and take a breath or, you know, get a drink of water or something to get back in the game. Most of the time, that's all it takes. Sometimes if you're emotional, you have to just cool off. You really just have to, that's the one that's mostly true for me because I'm such an emotional person. So I have to cool my jets, as they say, and get into third gear. So that's what happens if you have it. So handle it. And then the final piece of what you do is you get back to the person because a lot of times what we want to do is go, I don't want to talk about this anymore and just go. That's not really a simple shift. That's actually pretty much an unconscious trap. So you have to go back. You have to go back and say, you know what? I had an infestation and I'm better now. And can we start over? And people who love you and people who know you and people who care about you are always going to start over with you. Okay? Now, The second circumstance in which BEPPUMOIDs happen is the other person clearly has some symptoms. They might be interrupting you. They might not be listening. They might be, they might look like they're exhausted. They can't hear you. And so you continuing to try and have a conversation with them, your mouth is moving. And Charlie Brown's parents or teacher, what? That's what they hear. They don't hear anything. So in your first gear, you had the conversation with them and you said whatever you said. They never heard a thing. So I want you to know ahead of time, they can't hear you. Whatever you wanted to let them know about didn't get through. And so at that point, when you realize it's not going anywhere, you can say something like, is this still a good time for us to have this talk? And most people go, oh, yeah, it is. And then you say, really? And they go, oh, God, no, not really. Okay. So thanks, Eileen. Absolutely. Me too. And so you got to let them off the hook. One of the great things you can do is that someone can't hear you, because this is a relationship skill. Listening is a high relationship skill, and you want to continue the conversation. You want to be in it with them. You care about them, you respect them, you love them, whatever the range of conversation is that you're having and who they are in your life. This is an important thing, is to let them off the hook. Because then they can come back around and go, we were talking and I couldn't, and I really want to have that conversation with you. And then, of course, odds are high, if you're taking care of yourself and you're ready to listen in second gear, you're going to have a much better conversation, a much more successful conversation, and you're going to move your relationship forward or deepen the love that you have for each other. Now, I can promise you this is the number one thing that Chuck and I have used for the last 30 years. And you may remember I had 2 previous husbands and I didn't know this. Wasn't very good at that. Fortunately, this time, for 30 years, it's all about, if somebody has a BEPPUMOID, we know what it looks like. We know to take ourselves out and come back, and we know to let the other person off the hook. So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Simple shift number 1, take care of yourself, even if it is just breathe. Simple shift number 2, listen in second gear. And as John said, listen to understand, not to respond. And simple shift number 3, detect your BEPPUMOID symptoms and perhaps your BEPPUMOID infestation. Sometimes I have a complete and total infestation. I got them all. And then take action. So that's about 28 minutes. It always goes so fast. I'm hearing that this is helpful information. I'm hearing that this is useful. We got about 2 minutes left, and that means a minute and 30 or a minute and 40. If there's anything anybody wants to say, I want to make sure that you get a chance to do it, because look, I've got this slider right here. And I can tell you that next week is episode number 6. And after 6 episodes, I think I'm going to take, no, I don't think, I know, I'm telling you. I'm going to take either a week or 2 weeks off. And one of the things that I'm going to do, which is the most important thing, is I'm going to reach out to all of you who have been here on these sessions, and I'm going to ask you, what did you think? What worked for you? What would you want differently? And if there were some simple shifts or some unconscious traps that you are dealing with, if there are some simple shifts that you would like to have, but you don't know what they are, or if there are some unconscious traps that seem to be really getting to you after several months into COVID-19, I want to be sure that the next time I create 6 weeks of Facebook Live, I actually don't sort of pull it out of the air and give you what I think is the most important thing. What I'm hearing from people is that this was really useful and really helpful. So what this is, what these 6 weeks are, is what helps me stay sane, what has allowed me to be successful in my life, because I did not always know any of these things. And every single one of them has helped me to just blow the doors off success and happiness and peace. So next time, we're going to wrap things up, and we're going to talk about one thing that hardly anybody ever talks about, and that is, what are you paying attention to and how does it affect your stress? So Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. And thank you for those of you who are watching at the replay and never had a chance to say anything, but I'm feeling you. I know you're there. And I'll see you next week. Thank you. Bye. Love you.